Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are gonna talk about the BIM Manager Suite, and we're gonna give you a nice detailed overview of the suite as a whole, what some of the individual products do, and we'll take a little time at the end to do some live demonstrations on a handful of apps, so you can kind of get a feel for what the products can do. Before we begin though, I would like to encourage everyone to ask questions using the questions panel. I will be monitoring those as we go, and we'll answer those in line with the presentation when it makes sense, and make sure to take time at the end to answer any remaining questions at that time. For those of you watching the recorded version on our YouTube channel, please use the comments section below. We monitor that as well, and we'll make sure you get your answers or your questions answered. With that said, we'll get going. So the BIM Manager Suite is a collection of tools requested of us from individuals like yourself to assist in the BIM management workflows and needs of your firm. We've developed a handful of really powerful tools for project cleanup, family standards, and family and project management, project cleanup, and these are extremely powerful tools that are effectively built for BIM managers or the BIM management team. Right, so from the top down in that department, you've got your management or managers and your BIM coordinators, your support techs, or just if you don't have a management staff, all of your Revit power users potentially could be using these tools. So what we're going to do today is talk about what they are, what's their purpose, where is some really good value in the suites themselves, and then we'll talk about how to use some of them for cleanup purposes, to do some audits, parameter management, content management, and how we can deploy this amongst multiple pieces of content or multiple families and multiple projects. Now, before we get into the demonstration, I'm just going to do a really brief overview of each of the products within the BIM Manager Suite, so you understand what the individual tools can do at its core, and then we'll talk about a few of them. So what you see on the screen here is the entire BIM Manager Suite product kit. It's divided into two pieces. We have the free tools, which are the lighter blue shaded color icons, and then we have the paid tools, or the licensed tools. Those are the darker shaded blue tools on the right. And I'm just going to run my way through talking about the free tools and the licensed tools before we jump into the demonstration. Starting with Family Preview Manager. What this tool is designed to do is help you define a quality thumbnail for your Revit families. And this is what would show up when navigating for the family, say in your CMS of the CMS app that you use, whether it's through Windows Explorer, and in some cases in the thumbnails within Revit, right? If you're doing insert load family and you have show thumbnails on, we can have it set to show you a custom preview image that you built using Family Preview Manager. You can do it on a single family, or you can do it on all your families if they meet that certain criteria. Pretty slick little tool. Then there is Family Tools. Family Tools is a cleanup style application. So in your content library, your family library, maybe you've got a bunch of backup files and they're scattered all throughout the library. You can use Family Tools to help clean that out. Maybe you've got a handful of different shared parameter files and you just want to run a quick comparison to see if there's some duplicates. You can use Family Tools for that. So there's some really basic level functions that you don't necessarily need Revit or all these families open or anything like that. you can kind of just open family tools and check some of that stuff out. Project Cleaner is an enhanced purge command. So Revit has its purge. It does pretty good at getting rid of families and some types, right? And in some cases, we get into the weeds materials and a couple styles here and there. Project Cleaner helps get rid of views and sheets and view templates and view filters and line styles and things of that nature. Things that aren't always as easy to get rid of as they maybe should be. And you can do it all at once in one big shot instead of going through all these various dialogues. So it's a pretty slick tool to use, before project closeout when you're about to archive the model to save up on the file size, or before you send off to a consultant, or as you receive consultants' files, maybe you need to clean them out a little bit so that you have better model performance. Project Cleaner is a great tool for that. Revision Cloud Remover, or Rev Cloud Remover, it helps you remove revision clouds from the project. Sometimes they get hidden and they're hard to find, or they're drawn super tiny small so that they show up on a sheet somewhere. This tool will help track those down for you, tell you where they are, where they're located, and if they are able to be removed, you can use this tool to remove them. Really great if you're resurrecting an old project to do an addition or a remodel, or you've inherited one from another firm and you want to continue on that effort and you no longer need revisions, for example. You can use this tool to clear them out. Or if revisions were drawn when they shouldn't have been, or clouds, I should say. So that sums up the free tools. Now we're getting into the licensed tools, or the paid tools. Dimension Checker, or DIM Checker, as it's labeled, reports on all of the dimensions that have been created in your project, all of the different dimension strings, and gives you a full-on report of where text has been added to that dimension string, whether it's before, after, above, below, whether the value was replaced with text, or if someone faked the dimension value. Because there's ways to do that. People have found that out. Dimension Checker can help share that with you, and you can filter down. So maybe you wanted to find everywhere where it said UNO, and you wanted to change that verbiage to C schedule. You can search for that. It'll give you a list of everything that has UNO in the string somewhere, and now you can change that verbiage. And it has some additional navigation properties in there to help you find those dimensions easily. Family Checker is another product that assists with checking families. So it has the ability for you to establish some criteria or a series of rules that can be then used to scan your content or your family library or just a family and give you back a report letting you know if it is doing okay or not doing okay. Are we using our shared parameters file to do things? Or is it using the parameter groupings in it? Does it have the standard naming conventions that we want to use? And things of that nature. We can scan the family and give you back a report on that. And it's an Excel report, and then you can do whatever you want with it at that point. Family Processor is next, and this is a huge tool that is really, really, really good at helping you manage and modify your family library. Whether it's to add a parameter to all your families, like maybe you want to put a version parameter in your family so that internally you got version tracking now, or maybe you have to add a copyright parameter, or you downloaded a bunch of families from a manufacturer's website and you want to update them to now work in your templates and your projects and appear and function correctly in your schedules. Family Processor can help you update your content, replace family parameters with your shared parameters, and allow that process to function as intended in your projects so that you don't have to add a bunch of project parameters or you don't have to rebuild families from scratch. pretty slick little tool that we will be talking about today. Import and link manager is exactly what it says. It helps you manage your Revit links, CAD links, or imported files. And it's just a UI that allows you to see everything. You can filter down to certain pieces, and it helps you manage the reloading, the imports, if Revit files or files links are on the wrong work set, if they need to be pinned or unpinned, if you need to reload from, or if you need to reload files from the cloud, from BIM 360. It does all of that. We'll talk about that one too a little bit. Then there is Schedule Parameter Resolver. This tool helps you get the right parameters in your already formatted schedules. For example, duplicate parameters happen, right? They come from one place or another place, or from your standard. But as you're building up the schedule, it's not always clear as to which parameter you should be using. Think frame material, or potentially a dimensional property like width. It could be a custom one that you made and it's your shared parameter, but then there's the built-in ones that have the same name. How do we tell the difference? Now, this tool, so if you add it to your schedule in your template, maybe before you have anything in there, and you format it, you group headers, you change the formatting of the header values. So instead of it being frame material, maybe it's just material, or frame mat, or just mat, or you get the idea. And you've made it all caps, and you've got things nice and grouped and all that stuff. Schedule Parameter Resolver can help you replace that parameter in the schedule and retain all the grouping and all the formatting and all the extra work that you've done, so that you don't have to ungroup and remove, then add and regroup and reformat. It takes all the messy work out of it. Okay, next is Shared Parameter Manager. This is just a really great way to help you manage your parameter file, your shared parameter file, whether it's adding parameters, adding new groups, rebuilding it from scratch if you wanted to, right? It's a really easy way to help batch add groups and batch add parameters and their definitions to a parameter file. You can also use this to compare two shared parameter files together. Maybe you want to see what's in your project. You could export the parameters from your project to its own shared parameter file and compare that against your corporate file. See what's unique, see what's different. And if things are different, should they be in your corporate master file? You can do that. It also has features to help define and load parameters into your projects so that they can be in there as project parameters, or loaded into families so that you can build new content. Last but certainly not least is Type Swapper. Type Swapper is a tool that helps you clean up sloppiness in your projects. For example, you inserted a bunch of drafting views into your project from another project, and Revit tells you, oh, we had to duplicate this family for this reason. We had to and now it's view title 1, or view title 2, or keynote tag 1, or title block 1, or you name it, right? It happens all the time. Certainly from loading in a bunch of details. Type Swapper helps clean that up. Maybe someone exploded an AutoCAD drawing and you've converted things over, and now we've cleaned it up a bit, but you still have all those line types in your project. Type Swapper can help you clean that out really easily. So there's some, and make sure that the right ones are being used. So we'll talk about that a little bit too, because that one's pretty powerful. And I think there's a handful of, and we're going to talk about Project Cleaner as well, and Import Link Manager, I mentioned, Family Processor. So, so that's kind of a brief overview of everything in this suite. And now we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you a few things. So I'm going to switch over to my project, and I am going to first start by opening Project Cleaner. Project Cleaner, as I mentioned earlier, is another version of a purge style command. So there's a bunch of views in my project. I've got a bunch of sheets. It's running through and scanning the model right now and generating that report. You can see Revit's thinking over here in the background. And it's going to give me everything in the project that the tool can help you clean out. So perfect workflow in this case is I'm about to, or I've just received the architect's model. And this is a large project, so this file's maybe a little bloated and maybe is hindering my ability to change views or, do basic work on my project because it has to reload the backgrounds and things like that. And that's, or on the flip side, MEP. You're an architect, you receive the MEP model. Same thing, right? These files tend to get a little bloated at times, especially on the larger projects. Project Cleaner can help you get rid of some of that stuff that is not meaningful to you as the architect or engineer, depending on which side you're on. So we can get rid of the views that aren't meaningful to the work that we're trying to do. I don't necessarily, if I'm the engineer, I don't necessarily need all the area plans or the drafting views or the sections potentially. Maybe not, maybe I want to keep some building sections, but maybe not all the wall sections. Certainly not all the 3D views. Maybe if they had an overall 3D view, I can keep that one, right? So in this case, there isn't a good one listed there. So we'll just keep one, the Navis export one. We'll keep that one. But it gives me the ability to go ahead and clean some stuff out. Same thing with the schedules, right? I don't necessarily need any of those schedules if I'm the engineer, and probably don't need their keynotes either. So I can get rid of all that. Then I can jump into the view templates. If I'm not linking their views in and maintaining their graphic standards, I can get rid of all of these. Same with the filters and the sheets, right? Like there's a lot we can do here to clean things up. And maybe we need some of the sheets, but not all the sheets. That is totally fine. You can pick and choose what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. If you're inheriting projects, chances are there's going to be unplaced rooms, areas, or spaces, or there's some redundancy, or you just want a flat start over because they didn't match your standard. You can purge all that out in one shot, or again, go through and pick and choose what you want to work with, what you don't want to work with. Okay, pretty slick little workflow for getting rid of those really quickly. Yes, you can do it through the schedule, but this way takes care of that as well. And then it shows you all the linked files, all the imports, and images. So maybe you don't need, in this case, that's a lot of images that me, the engineer, doesn't need. I can check the box for all of these and then hit, and then now that I've gotten through everything, I can just hit remove. Done. Everything's gone. I can also save this. So maybe in a week or two's time, you get an update and they haven't cleaned anything out. And in fact, maybe it's worse. You can load that save setting to pick up where you left off and add to it if you need to, or at the very least, just load it and get rid of it, right? Or maybe there's a standard workflow that you use for model archiving, and you want to make sure that you get rid of a bunch of stuff before you archive it to try to save some space, right? Maybe we don't need all these images in the Revit file anymore for archiving because they've been exported out, they've been used in their presentations, the customer or obviously already approved, and it's being built. We can get rid of a lot of that now potentially. So you can save repeat workflows and load them in and use them as necessary. So it's a pretty slick little tool to help with cleaning up a Revit file where Revit doesn't do a very good job with it, right? And again, whatever I've got checked right now gets done all in one shot. And then when you're done, there's a quick link to the Revit purge command so that if anything is left based off what you just got done removing, you can go back and clean it out using the Revit purge. All right, the next tool I want to discuss real quick, since we're in a project at the moment, is Import Link Manager. So Import Link Manager, again, helps you manage CAD links, CAD imports, Revit links, and image files and such that have been brought into the project file. And you can reload from, you can just do a simple reload Maybe you just started a new project, you've put it in the cloud, in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and now you receive, and your consultants have put theirs up there now too. And you want to make sure that those are linked into your file. Well, you can use Import Link Manager to do that. Maybe yours has placeholder links on my C drive, for example, or maybe they're on the R drive at your office. You can select that and do a swap reload from BIM 360 or ACC, whatever you want to call it. And you can go specify that project file and project folder, grab the Revit file, boom, done your reload. You don't have to do it the Revit way if you don't want to. You can do it with this app and get all the access that you need. Maybe as the mechanical engineer, you need to set the architect's model to room bounding, and upon linking it in, someone forgot to do that. You can use Import Link Manager to do that just by selecting the link and hitting room bounding equals yes. And it will apply that setting for you and in turn apply it to the link in the model. Same with pinning or unpinning. You can switch what work set things are placed on, right? Maybe this Revit link work set is the wrong work set for this particular file. Revit still names things interestingly when it comes to Revit links. Doesn't exactly pick up the project name, but this is my architectural site link, so I can change what work set that's on. Maybe it should just be on site and not good old Revit link. So I can change that here, and it will update that for me. Or maybe you found a duplicate. If you got duplicate links because someone inadvertently copied the structural link or a CAD link, you could remove those here. And especially, it'll be super prevalent if you see the same file name in there twice. You'll be able to go ahead and do that. Change reference types if you need to. There's the pin unpin options. Here's all your CAD links. And actually, one of the things that I like about this tool that you don't get with all tools is I can convert a CAD import or a series of CAD imports to CAD links, right? As long as I know where they are, right? This is a good old import, and it says, not only is it on the import tab, but it tells you how it was brought in and what view it was brought into, right? And if it makes sense to be in the model, you can change that and do a swap reload, go find the file, and it will prompt you to redefine the insertion method. Or you have the opportunity to redefine the insertion method. So I canceled that because I had the wrong file picked. Let me grab this one here, because that's a DWG file. And actually I can grab this top one too. Either one, it doesn't matter. So we'll grab that guy since I know where I have a copy of that. So I can grab this. I can go to my CAD files folder here, and we're looking for XB02. There it is. I can grab it. And then I'm going to get my window to redefine the process. Do I want it to be a link instead of an import? Or do I just need to change the coloring, right? But they preserved the colors. Maybe I want to switch it to black and white now instead of being preserved because I need to reuse it for something. Or I just want it to, I'm in a pinch. I need to make sure it works. Or I can invert them to whatever Revit decides they should be. Maybe I got to change the units. Maybe I want to change the host view. Instead of to the model, I want to specify, what, it should just show up in my area plan level 2. I can specify that here. So you can manage all of this stuff as you see fit. And then for the placement, you can actually change the placement or preserve it, preserve how it was set up, and it'll go ahead and do that. So, and if you know none of that's changed, then you've got nothing to worry about. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that cook for a second. Yeah, and then if you can't find something because you're not sure what's going on or you're not sure where it lives in the browser, we do have a show object option, which will bring you to the view and allow you to take a look at it. And since I made that change, notice it's no longer showing up in this list because this is the imports list. I can go to my CAD links list now, and there it is right there. Nope, that's not the one. This one. There it is, right here. So yeah, that's how the tool works. And if you want to generate reports and review them outside of the app, you can do that. Save out a nice little Excel file and take a look at it somewhere else. The next tool I want to talk about, since I'm here, is Type Swapper. Type Swapper is another project-based tool. Notice I'm doing all the project ones first. But so it may feel a little out of order as far as what's presented here. But Type Swapper helps you update things in your project to match the desired piece of content or the desired component that you want to use. Example one, duplicate families, right? If I insert a couple dozen sheets of details or just a few dozen details from another project or from my detail library, there's a really good chance that Revit's going to bark at me and say, hey, we had to rename this family to blah, 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 number one, or blah, 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 number two, to avoid conflicts with what's already in your project. That happens a lot. Maybe not so much as it used to, but it still happens more often than it should, to be honest. And Type Swapper, at least on the duplicate families tab, this is what it's designed to do. It's designed to show you what's a duplicate and swap it with what's not the duplicate, what's the original. And in many cases, it'll present you with what it should be swapped with. If that is wrong, or if it should be something slightly different, go ahead and change that. Or if you don't want to touch it because that is correct, you want to continue to have that as an option, you just haven't gone back and renamed it yet, for example, you can set it to no change. But if you do want to update it, you can, and you can hit swap. And if there is a duplicate family that you're swapping, you can either leave it alone, but to avoid any additional confusion with that inadvertently getting used in your project, you can also delete those duplicates at the same time that you are running the swap. And once the swap is complete, the content gets deleted, and we will no longer have duplicate families in my project. Step one, checked. The next set of tabs here are dealing with the dimension and text styles in your project. Again, loading, drafting views and details from other projects. Potentially you're bringing in additional dimension and text styles that are either outdated, they're not the standard anymore. We've changed font sizes, we've changed font styles, leader types, the list goes on, right? Especially for loading stuff in from a project, a similar project that's 5 years old. You can take this tool and do some cleanup work. I was going to say the next example is users just duplicate stuff sometimes. It happens. People feel like there's a certain way to do things, and maybe you don't need to do it that way, or you don't want them to do it that way. You can run the update real quick and get all that cleaned up. So this arc one, maybe I want this to be just standard aerial, so I can switch it to my 3/32 aerial and hit swap, and it will run the swap. Arc is no longer being used, and they're all up in the aerial space now. I could then grab arc and hit fleet. Get it, and since aerial 2 is not even being used, I'll grab that at the same time. And that's how it goes. And Sean has not relinquished his permissions, so I can't delete everything necessarily, and that's okay. But let me do it anyway, because you can force relinquish stuff now, so that's kind of slick. And then the rest I had left at no change, so we're good to go. Text works the same way. You find a text style that you don't want in your project, but you know what it is and what it should be, make it that. Hit swap. It'll do the business for you and allow you to delete the unpleasantness of some of the styles in your project. Really slick, really easy thing to do. And you have the opportunity to specify what are considered to be approved styles. And that's just a visual indicator to let you know that, hey, this is approved. This is maybe these are the ones that are our corporate standard. These are the ones we should always be trying to use. The rest are what they are. They're here. They shouldn't be. Let's run some updates. Maybe I should check this one too. And this is just a visual indicator for either for you, or you can save this out and send it off and share it with others in your firm. And now they know these are the approved pieces. And then there's line styles, line patterns, fill patterns, materials, MEP systems if duplicate systems is becoming an issue for you guys, and viewport types, which is always an issue. But line styles and line patterns specifically are big ones because those come in from AutoCAD. Even if they're not being used, they still find their ways into our projects. In Revit, this is a very cumbersome thing to try to get rid of. With Type Swapper, you can just shift select all of it and hit delete, and you're done. If that was 30 line styles that I just deleted, I have to click, 23. I'd have to click select, delete, OK for each individual one of those inside of Revit. So I just saved myself 60 some odd clicks. And I did it in 3. 4 technically. So slick way to get rid of some of that stuff. Again, even if you're not swapping anything, it can help delete some of the fluff that no longer belongs there. And viewport types is another great example. I do have some in here that are duplicates or that people duplicated, right? It's not a true duplicate as in duplicate family, but they are types that are not necessary. Like these 2 sample ones that I made because I felt like it, I guess. I don't even remember doing it, but maybe I'll just switch these over, title there and viewport title with line, and then the viewport 1 will switch to title with line, and I'm good to go. I can hit swap. It'll update everything. Then I can grab these 3 and hit delete unused, and it will get rid of the empty counts. I guess. Oh, all right. I'm not deleting. I must be having something else selected here. Anyway, but it lets you do it. Then again, so when you do your saves, a save is defined to each tab, so you don't have to worry about loading in something that you didn't mean to load in. Okay, you will have a dimensions cleanup option if you would like. And there's filters built in, especially if you want to make sure you're only working with linear dimension styles versus messing around with the spot elevations or spot coordinates, especially if the names are similar. And your list is lengthy. There's some good filtration here that you can work with. Okay. The next one I want to talk about real quick is Shared Parameter Manager, and then we'll jump into the remaining tool that I want to talk about before I let you guys go. So Shared Parameter Manager. And really there's two key workflows here that I like to showcase to people. The first one is potentially managing a shared parameter file, right? So if I go back to my settings here, I'll grab a shared parameter file that I like to work with. We'll grab this one because it's got stuff in it, and I want to just see what's here. I can take a look, see everything that's here. Maybe I need to find something, or I just need to start adding new stuff, right? I can select any of the groups and hit add parameter, and maybe you're missing a group, add group, and depending on what you're working with, when you're adding parameters, it'll tell you what group it's in, gives you opportunity to find the discipline and the parameter type based off said discipline. And if you're choosing family types, you get to pick what Revit category to work with here, right? What's it supposed to be tied to? Excuse me. But the real nice thing here is I can batch add parameters if I'd like. You know, I can physically hit batch add and just type out the list of parameters that I want. And we'll just start going on is off, just for fun. Show in model, show on sheet. The list goes on, right? But I can hit OK and it will add those in one shot. Then I can add tooltips. Maybe you need to provide further explanation as to what this parameter is actually working with or what it's actually meant for. You can do that here. And this is something that you can come back to. If you forgot to do it before, or you discovered that there's a parameter that nobody knows what it's supposed to be doing, and they should be using it all the time, you can add a tooltip after the fact and just reapply it to the content with Family Processor if you need to. But then you can set that all up. You can hit create. It will add them to your parameter file. Then you can save it and you're done. Now people can use it on their projects or use it in their families. Workflow 2 is maybe you have a project that had its own shared parameter file for whatever reason. It happens quite frequently, actually. And so you can open that shared parameter file, or you can export it from the active project and take a look, see what's going on. You know, so where's I had a project here. Where'd it go? There, no, this one. And it'll tell you, oh, it's got some duplicates. Wow, look at that. There are some duplicates in this file. I wonder why. And you can start to dig in and maybe find out why there are duplicates. Right? It does show them here. And what we can do is compare this list with my active parameter file and see if any of these duplicates are actually in my parameter file. And if they are, great. We need to figure out where these other two came from then. So I can find duplicates and say, show me only the duplicates. And now I can tell, okay, so we are using my parameters in my parameter file for a lot of this stuff, which is great, but there's also a lot that came from elsewhere. And now we can dig in and start trying to figure that out. Let's go ahead and filter by unique and start to see where things are new, where things are, you know, what should we be using versus not using. Here's the actual dimensions here that are unique to this file, which is awesome. I can add these over to the dimensional property here. I can start to merge these together. So I can actually grab this list, press and drag it 2 dimensions over here and let go. And we had a GUID conflict, which is good. I'm glad it didn't do it. But now, so it's checking the back end to let you know, hey, this is going to work, or hey, this is not going to work. It's constantly checking that out for you. But now they're no longer in my list. Notice the dimensions group over here is completely empty, right? There's no longer any unique parameters between these 2 groups. And I can check for conflicts again if I need to, or, right? So here's actual width and actual height, right? So I just tried to add those and it noticed there was a conflict. So that just means they came from different families or different parameter files. Kind of fun, kind of slick little way to get through and review your content files. Once you're done merging and such, you can go ahead and save that. And now you've just updated your parameter file from important stuff from the project that you just exported from. And then you have the ability to take those build selection sets and you can batch load those into families so that you can use those in other projects or use them in other families to help standardize and just speed up that process. You know, and if you're in a project, you can define them as project parameters and get those added to certain categories within your project. Either way, it will work out just fine. All right, I'm going to switch to the family environment right now. We're going to talk about one final tool briefly, and this briefliness will not fully do the tool justice because it is a very big tool and can do a lot of very cool things, and that is Family Processor. So what Family Processor offers you is the ability to manage the parameters in your families and make sure that they are indeed in those families And if they need to have formulas with them, that those formulas exist. And or if you downloaded families from a manufacturer, they use their shared parameters, not yours, but you want that family to use your shared parameter files. You can swap. You can do a replace with shared parameters type of swap, where you add your shared parameter file or parameter to this list and replace it, or add the manufacturer's parameter, replace it with your shared parameter. Done. You can do it with family parameters. Maybe someone made it as a family parameter, not knowing it should have been shared to be scheduled or to be tagged, right? So let's make it a shared parameter. So you can take any family parameter and turn it into a shared parameter. You know, maybe offset here should be, well, hold on. I just realized I jumped to the wrong tab. My bad. I can take offset from the replace tab and pick a shared parameter file. I don't have one mapped right now, so I'm going to go find mine and put in, and it just has to match dimensional properties. And we can start finding the values that we want to use. I'm looking for a parameter type of length. We can go ahead and filter by parameter types and start to grab the right things from the file. Maybe you don't, it's for whatever reason, you're having a tough time grabbing the right information from your parameter file. And I'm just going to grab this one. Nope. So you have the ability to add some of this stuff and replace it. Let me get rid of this one. You also have the ability to just flat out just add stuff. Maybe you got a brand new family. You need to add parameters. Go ahead and find anything that maybe you're building a door frame, or you're building an air terminal, and you know there's a handful of parameters to go into all your air terminals, or you're building a new structural foundation, step footing, or something like that. You can grab all that stuff and bring it all in one shot. So if I'm building a door family, for example, I know I need all of these parameters to build it. I can add all of them to the family in one shot and define them accordingly. Are they instance properties? Are they type properties? Do they need a default value? Do they need to be associated to a formula, right? And does that formula contain any specific parameters that are not in this list? Like maybe I have to find some of my control parameters, right? Do any of these apply here? Yeah, here's one. And I think I need that one and that one. So I can start adding these things into the list here and building out a formula that looks at that. And, and it's just a basic, it's the same formula and structure that you would type into a Revit family environment. You type it in here. Maybe there's one that you need to add to this. I don't want this to schedule in a typical schedule, so I can add a appears in schedule parameter to this list and tell it that it needs to default to off. Right? You put the formula in, that inherits the value, good to go. So there's ways to incorporate some of this information directly into the content without actually having to open each and every single piece of content. A couple of things that are in here as well, we have the ability to purge out content. So if you had if you exported all your families from your project and now there's a whole bunch of types that are no longer necessary, you can start purging some of those types out of the project. If it finds that there's nested families that are not being used, they're just hanging out there, you can purge those out too. You can purge out default families if they're not being used, right? Like there's always glass, there's always floor, there's mass, and some of these analytical services, right? There's always a default So if those defaults exist in a lot of your content, they're just taking up dead space and they don't need to be there. You can tell it automatically delete these materials if they are found. And you don't have to worry about ever seeing those again in your content or having that pollute your projects after you've spent all this time cleaning out your templates. Things keep coming back because it's in your content. And if you like working with lookup tables with your fittings, or for any other reason, you can also use this to delete old lookup tables from your content and import new ones as they are needed. And then last but not least, you can process just the current family, and it will apply the changes but not update anything. It won't save the file for you. It's a great way to preview what the work you're about to do, right? And just make sure that before you apply this across the board to all the families in your library, you can check it. Once you've established that, yes, this process is going to work, you can save your setup to a settings file to be used later on, and then turn around and pick a folder's worth of content to apply your changes to, whether that's one full, a couple families or all of your families, right? It really just kind of depends on what it is that you're adding. You have the ability to choose, do it to all my doors, or do it to just one door. So when I pick the folder, I get the opportunity to choose which families am I going to update. Because maybe your script is just for exterior doors, not the interior doors. That's fine. Maybe it's just for supply information, not return information, or the list goes on. Residential fixtures versus commercial fixtures. You get to pick and choose accordingly. And if your library isn't organized to that level of detail, it's up to you to choose what you want to work with. If it is broken out accordingly, then this process just becomes really simple. You select the folder, you grab everything within, and add selected. Then you get to choose, do I need to add a prefix? Do I need to add a suffix? Am I saving them to a different folder just in case, right? You don't want to mess with anything that's live and in use and have to go back and repair it. You can just that one extra fail-safe, right? Save it to an extra folder. I like doing that. That's just my personal thing. Maybe not every single family applies it to the rules that I've set up, so I can just resave it just in case. Great for upgrading stuff or just doing a standard audit and compact. And then we can also generate a new shared parameter file from the content that was found here or that was processed. So if you didn't have a shared parameter file, really, and you wanted to make one, or at least compare the content that you have on your network, things that were downloaded and brought from wherever they were brought from, built by whomever they were built by, and compare that with what your perceived master is, you can do that. You can use Family Processor just to build out a new shared parameter file, then use Shared Parameter Manager to compare the two together. So there's a number of different ways here that you can go about using Family Processor, whether you're updating a bunch of content or simply just creating new shared parameter file, or saving it to a different folder and resaving them, because we're not changing anything. We're just running an audit. We're doing a compact. Maybe we're checking for default materials and deleting those, but maybe you're not doing anything else. It's a great way to just upgrade, compact, audit, move on. Nice little way to clean things up and to make sure that things are staying cleaned up. So it's a pretty slick little tool. And again, you can save all those setups. I recommend saving various amounts of settings. And there was one other piece that I thought I wanted to show, and the last one was just, this family level processing tab. Think of this as your family category and parameters tab inside of the family editor, right? We can work with classification numbers. You can change the family category if you need to, because not always is the family category readily available, right? So maybe you make a bunch of new families using generic model, but you wanted it to be an adaptive thing, or you wanted it to, you selected profile, but you want to change what type of profile it is. You can quick batch process them all at the same time to switch what the category needs to be. Or it's just a generic tag because the tag template doesn't exist, right? That sort of deal. Do you want to enable or disable room calculation points? Maybe a bunch were added and they shouldn't have been. So there's a bunch of things here. There's this. There's the, where did it go? Here's that audit option. This is what I want to point out. I mentioned it at the end when you're doing your processing. Audits on the first tab, in case you wanted to just run an audit and do a save and compact. So, all right. I wanted to close by saying that if you had some interest and would like to learn more about the product itself after watching this presentation of the web or our recorded version on our YouTube channel, go to our website, ctcsoftware.com. On our products page here, we have BIM Manager Suite. Here, you can find more information about the product itself. You can sign up for a trial, links to our YouTube channel for additional videos, both here and up here, and a little bit of information about each individual product within the suite. Beyond that, if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us, info@ctcsoftware.com. We're here for you. We'll answer any questions that you may have, and we look forward to hearing from you and working with you in the future. And with that, that sums it up for today. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy presenting to you guys. And again, if you need anything, please just let us know, and we're here for you. Thank you.